The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day.
It gets real tricky when someone denies the rights of citizens. When someone who's in power denies their rights, because what are you then if you're in power and you're denying their rights? As soon as you step in and deny people due process, deny people lawyers, deny people, why would you ever want to do that? It's a real question. So when things get passed, like the National Defense Authorization Act that allows the government to indefinitely detain American civilians, and they don't have to do anything. They're not required to notify your family. They're not required to arrest you. They're not required to. You don't have to get a lawyer. They can just lock you up. When you see shit like that, does that drive you crazy?
Oh yeah, and people always say to me, they say, well, why are you defending the terrorists? And what you try to explain to people is, without the due process, there's no confirmation that this is a terrorist. The only way you know it's a terrorist is when some court somewhere determines, upon looking at the evidence, that this person is a terrorist. Once you can kill somebody on the suspicion of being a terrorist, well, we're all under suspicion of being a terrorist under the certain conditions that someone wants to deem a mistaken identity situation, or anything.
Sure.
I mean, how many guys are named Omar or Mohammed or,
Well, how about in this Dormer case? The cops shot up two different cars that were the wrong cars.
Perfect example.
Yeah. The idea that the government should have special powers that regular human beings don't. That's crazy.
Well, they have that now. I mean,
right.
I think
they already do because they're in government. But
to
take it to the next level and decide that you're going to deny the rights of people that you feel are guilty. Well, who are you? And how do I know that you're infallible? And how do I know that this isn't corruption? How do I know this isn't a personal grudge? It's not like you're dealing with an organization that has a spotless record over the past, 200 years, where they're the most ethical human beings to ever exist, and people from other countries come to them. No, we've caught them lying about a million different things.
We had committee hearings, which you cannot even imagine today, which shows you how much things have changed. In the 1970s, we had the Church Committee hearings and the Pike Committee hearings, where the government actually on television exposed everything the CIA had been doing since the end of the Second World War, the assassinations and all this kind of stuff. The crown jewels are what the CIA used to call those secrets that were exposed on television by congressional and senatorial committees. It just shows you what happens when there's no oversight. And if stuff is too secret to have oversight over, you're asking for trouble. There's too many ways human beings can justify going beyond the rules. And there's always a good reason. And you hear it today. I mean, the waterboarding thing is a perfect example. We prosecuted people at Nuremberg for having an attitude that we have now, which is, hey, if they're terrorists and you can save lives by torturing people, isn't that an ethical dilemma where it's worth torturing some guy you know is bad anyway in order to save lives? I mean, if you could have prevented the two towers from falling down by waterboarding a couple of bad guys, isn't that worth it? And those ethical dilemmas lead you off into the weeds really quickly, and history shows that over and over again.
It's very doubtful that it's helping either. It's very doubtful that you're really getting that kind of key information from people by throwing water down their mouth. I don't know if torturing people gets them to tell the truth.
Gets them to tell you anything you want. Well, there's an old line about and I wish I could quote it at length. It's a wonderful line going back hundreds of years where somebody says, would you abrogate the laws in order to get the devil? And the other guy says, no, I would stick to the laws, because if you abrogate the laws to get to the devil, you take away the only thing that protects yourself eventually. Yeah. And that's what this is. People say, well, it's okay to go after this to get to terrorists. What makes you think, one, that it'll stay with terrorists, and two, that what a terrorist is, that definition won't change. The Bush administration was calling these people that would light, car dealerships on fire in the middle of the night when there was no one there, eco-terrorists. You're going to drone those people?
Right. What are you going to do? Exactly. Where does the line get drawn, and who gets to decide?
Antifungal coffee proponents that might get a little hyped up.
Those motherfuckers.
Yeah, drone those people.
I mean, dude, this whole fucking Pope thing, to me, it's
craziness.
Crazy and hilarious that we even pay attention to what that clown is doing. How is that even making the news? There's some weird fucking group of people who do like the most bizarre ceremonies who I don't even...
Sanctioned by governments and mass media. No one calls it a cult. The guy's wearing a fucking wizard outfit with a fish head hat. It's if you tried to do that today and tried to say, I am adorned of God, he has brought to me this information, you set up a shop, they would think you were a fucking loon. But because of the fact that it's been around for a long time, this guy has a direct lineage, we're supposed to take it seriously.
We're supposed to take it seriously, and we're supposed to fucking ignore all the shit Catholicism did.
Well, how about the shit he did? He released a priest that had molested 200 deaf boys. 200.
He let him go, huh?
He let him go.
Just
He
let
brought
him
him
go.
into psychiatric. Instead of bringing in and getting him prosecuted, they brought him in for psychiatric treatment. And this guy went they went to another parish and he molested more boys. I mean, it's fucking craziness. He did that time and time again. He took people away from being prosecuted and sent them to psychiatric care, and they're free. They're free to go.
Yeah.
They're free. They're walking around the street. Some of them are in these huge religious retreat places that they have, beautiful grounds, and these guys are just wandering around, taking care of for the rest of their life. And they're child molesters.
There's a place like that up where I live. So that's happening.
And they don't pay taxes.
They don't pay fucking taxes.
That is fucking crazy. All that shit is crazy. The idea that they should be able to make golden buildings and not pay taxes. Bitch, are you out of your fucking mind?
Can you fucking imagine?
That's a business.
It's a business.
It's a fucking business.
Yeah,
you don't talk directly for God. It's 2013. Stop your bullshit. You're not telling the truth. You don't know that much. I don't believe you. I think you are very charismatic, and there's a lot of people that want to believe you, and they'll go along with it. But you're talking crazy. God's not talking to you, stupid. No, you're an asshole. You're an asshole, and you're taking their money. And we got to make sure that this stops with our generation. We got to make sure that future generations don't have a gigantic religious leader, someone who tells them based on some nutty shit that was written thousands of years ago by people who drew on animal skins.
But also, it spreads. The way that looks with Catholicism is just one version of the problem. The other problem is the guy who calls. There's like in the way there's a pope, there's also a dude who calls himself the president. But instead of representing some phantasmal force called God, he says, I represent the will of the people. Mm-hmm. Yet he doesn't really represent the will of the people. It doesn't seem like that when he goes to when they do the polls, and as it turns out, and I'm not just the president, of course, the government as a whole. The president doesn't have totalitarian power, but I don't think that the president really represents the will of the people, and I don't think Congress represents the will of the people, and I don't think Senate represents the will of the people any more than the Pope represents the will of God. And I think it's this imaginary thing that we're supposed to believe in because it makes us feel more comfortable, as though these people are really enacting the will of the people. I think the will of the people is that we want peace. We want to be able to, we do want security. We want education, but we don't want fucking war with Iran.
Yeah.
We don't want fucking war with Iraq. How the fuck do you say it? How did I forget to say that? I got so stirred up. We don't want it. Yeah. Nobody wants war. And if there is, it's a small faction of people, of sweaty, red-faced cocksuckers.
Did you guys, I was going to bring this up yesterday, did you guys hear about this guy who got arrested with 100 bags of heroin up his ass?
No, 100 bags?
100 bags. It was a traffic stop.
Is his asshole
him
a
in
sinkhole? You have a sinkhole in your pants, sir.
It's 100 bags of heroin, man.
That's insane.
100, the man... Oh, Jesus.
Oh, my.
Okay, I look, this...
Killer season?
No, this one. Okay, this guy just had one. Okay, the other guy had it in his ass. One guy just had 200 bags. I'm like, did someone just take it to the next level?
You gotta watch Killer Season.
So this dude gets busted on the Palisades Parkway. They pull him over in his 2005 Mitsubishi Lancer, and he's acting real weird. And so they decide to bring him in. So they bring him in, and they open up his ass. They just gave him a cavity check. I mean, the guy didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, they pulled him over. He just looked weird.
He was tweaking out on his own.
Something was going on with him, man. He was pulled over. I mean, it was a routine traffic stop. But they detected a smell of marijuana. And that's where they got him. And they brought him in because they smelled marijuana. That's it. And he had 100 bags of heroin up his ass. And you can't put 100 bags of heroin up your ass while the cops are going from their car to your car. You can't do that. So he was driving around with those packed up his ass.
What an idiot. Why would you drive around and smoke weed with 100 packs of heroin in your ass?
Well, I think he's just one of those guys. That's his
mean,
move.
yeah.
Maybe it's like how like Russian chicks would put Benoit balls in their pussy to tighten up their fuck muscle.
Yeah.
Maybe this dude was just like exercising his
man.
ass storage.
His starfish. Yeah, he's just working out that
stuffing.
starfish.
Or maybe he didn't trust his roommates. Like, man, if I leave this 100 bags of heroin laying around, these
man.
motherfuckers are gonna sell it.
He went to the gym.
She's like, man, I can't fit it in my pocket. I can't leave it in my. I can't leave it in my dash.
Let's work out that starfish.
The glove box is full. Maybe I just stuffed this up my ass. Can I fit 100 bags? Well, let's see. 5, 6. Wow, am I really gonna get 94 more bags? Dr. Stephen Greer. If you don't know who Dr. Greer is, there's a thing that a lot of people are aware of that came out. Was it 2011? The Disclosure Project? Was it
2001?
2001. Did I say 11? I meant 1. I meant right around September 11th. That's where the 11 came from in my head. 2001. It was huge in the internet. A huge point of controversy and a topic of conversation. It was you on stage introducing this Disclosure Project, explaining how much information you had access to about alien spacecrafts visiting Earth and how many distinguished, high-ranking military people. And that was where it got shocking. Agreed with you.
And, one of the interesting things, after we put this briefing together for Clinton and, Lawrence Rockefeller, I put the concept together of the best available evidence and all these cases. And then Lawrence Rockefeller hosted Bill and Hillary Clinton at the Rockefeller Ranch, and it had me out there shortly before that. And Mr. Rockefeller was the white hat in the family who wanted to end the secrecy, unlike some of his family. So he said to me, one night I was out on his porch on a deck in the Grand Tetons at the JY Ranch, and he said, we really need you to hurry up and do this. And I said, oh, Lawrence, I'm just a doctor in North Carolina. I'm working in an ER, He says, no, you have to do it. I said, no, Lawrence, you have to get these guys to do it. He says, they will never do it. And I said, Lawrence, for God's sakes, you're old, you're rich, and you're a Rockefeller. And he says, no. He says, the implications of this are so vast and so profound that no aspect of life will be unchanged when it comes out. I said, yes, Lawrence, that's why it's secret. And then he said to me, well, that means those folks aren't going to do it. And then, before that, shortly after that, and I had this meeting with the CIA director, and one of the president's friends came to my house, and this was a very disturbing story. I'm sitting at the table with my 4 kids, 4 daughters, and this man, who's very close friends with the president, Clinton, says to me, well, they're very supportive of what you've recommended in this white paper. I said, great. He says, but they're not going to do it. I said, why not? He says, they're convinced that if the president steps into this too hard, he'll end up like Jack Kennedy. And I started laughing, thinking, what a load of nonsense. And he stopped me. He says, no, they're serious. I said, well, don't say this in front of the kids. So we went to the library in my house after dinner. And I said, what are you talking about, Kevin? And he said, they really think this is too dangerous. I said, well, what am I supposed to do? What am I, chop liver? And he looked at me and he says, yeah, you're expendable. So I have always viewed myself as the kind of the throwaway guy in all of this, in the sense that these guys, the folks who have enormous political power and corporate power, even the ones who support this very avidly, and there's a lot of them, they don't want to stick their necks out.
But I'm confused. Okay, why would they kill Bill Clinton if Bill Clinton came out and said that we may have evidence that there might be some intelligent life out there in the world, in the universe?
Because, it's like the REM song, it's the end of the world as we know it. Because if that happens, when that happens...
people would panic.
No. The public isn't going to panic over this unless it's couched in a stupid way.
Well, the public definitely will panic if the president comes out and says there's UFOs and then he gets whacked. That would lead to panic.
Yeah, but there's a bigger problem. If the president doesn't have control access over these projects, he didn't want to talk about it because then it shows the fact that our democracy has been sidelined, as Eisenhower warned us.
The Joe Rogan Experience.